The urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it. Hello, my name is John Rose, and that was H.L. Mencken. And yes, I've used that quote many times before because I talk about this subject matter quite a few times. It's an important subject matter. And in this video, I'd like to take a closer look at the Constitution and how our rights are being usurped by appointed bureaucrats. I also want to take a look at how common law has been replaced by maritime law. Now this is really fascinating. You're going to want to listen to this. And I also want to talk about a subject that's very interesting, our licenses and our permits, the way our government's taking advantage of us. Whether or not we have a right to travel versus a need to have a driver's license or a marriage license. These are important things we need to understand because we give away our rights when we enter into these contracts and we're being deceived. So I'm going to go over all that in this video. And I'm going to start off with the Constitution. The Constitution granted 3 laws. Common law, God's laws, and that's really an automatic. We weren't given those by the Constitution. Those are already automatic. Every living system has these rights as a living system on this planet to have their needs satisfied. And then we have equity law, also known as contract law. And the third is maritime law, admiralty law. Now this is where they're really sticking it to us, my friends. Also with the appointed bureaucrats. So this is where we get in trouble. Is the Constitution says, look, we have these common laws, we have these rights, but then we have the FDA that covers up the crimes of the pharmaceutical industry. We've got the EPA that covers up the crimes from the chemical companies. We have the USDA covering up crimes of biotech. And then we have the CDC that covers up the crimes from the vaccine industry. And these bureaucrats are taking over our country. Now, this goes back to 1884 when the Fabian Society was founded. And it was a long-range goal or plan to socialize us, to appoint Fabian lawyers and Fabian judges to change the rules and usurp the Constitution. This goes back a long time, my friends. Again, the urge to save us is really the urge to rule us. We're being tricked and we're being fooled by these laws. So right off the bat, we have all these bureaucracies that we need to get rid of immediately. The FDA, the EPA, the USDA, the CDC, we got to get rid of those. Even the educational department that was established by Carter back in 1979. We got to do away with that also. We're being controlled through these bureaucracies. Our rights are being taken away from us. Along those lines, common law has been replaced with maritime law. And this all goes back to the law of the flag. You see, if you're from Spain, for example, and you're taking goods out to be sold around the world, you fly a Spanish flag on your ship, which notifies everybody by law of the flag that you come on to this ship, you better obey the laws of Spain because now you're on Spain's property. And the captain, he can do anything he wants. He can make up the rules as he goes. The same thing applies to foreign embassies by the principle of four cornering. We have the same concept, a building with 4 corners and a flag that designates the laws of that property. You go into a foreign embassy, as soon as you step on their property, your rights as an American citizen is gone. You have to obey their laws. Same thing when you go on a ship. Now the same thing applies in courtrooms, and that's how they're getting to us now. What they did back is they started in all the buildings and courtrooms in 1959. All the flags have been replaced with a flag with a yellow or gold fringe around it. That is no longer our flag. You go into a courtroom right now, you're stepping on into foreign property. And you're under the jurisdiction of that military war because now you're under martial law, under the rule of that flag. You're no longer a U.S., you're not even in the U.S. court anymore. These are the things we've got to change immediately. We got to get rid of all these yellow or gold fringed flags. Number one, that's in all of our courtrooms. We got to get rid of that. This started way back in 1852 when these crafty lawyers started changing things, trying to take away our common law rights and then making us apply the maritime law. We're on the land, we're not on the sea. But that's what they've done. They tricked us because we don't know any better. We don't know that when we step into a courtroom now, it's just like stepping into an embassy. It's a different flag, and we got to obey those rules. And now the judge can do anything they want, just like the captain of a ship. It's all about controlling us, folks. Remember, we're sick. That's the problem to begin with. We shouldn't have a government. It's a subsequent need because we're sick. So the ultimate solution is always to realize that we got to get reconnected as a collective, individually and collectively, so that we won't have what I label as 10 subsequent needs from being disconnected, from hypoheliosis. From only having 5 senses, we're supposed to have 6. Remember, the fall of mankind destroyed a nutrient that feeds one of our senses. It's a biophoton. It's the coherent sunlight energy that's faster than the speed of light that's in our cells that communicates, and that's our 6th sense. We don't have that anymore. Now we're all screwed up. We need to have a government to help us. We never needed governments until we started moving into cities. Remember, when you look at our timeline, we didn't even start having laws until about 10,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution. The third main thing I say we mastered, and then we made a bad application. We started eating grains. But then we started creating laws. We moved into cities. The more laws there are, the more corruption. That's how they take advantage of us. Now, when you look at how licenses work, we need a license or a permit to use property that doesn't belong to us. So I can't think of a better example. I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway. If I'm going to go hunt on somebody's property, if it's not my property, I need a permit from that person. I don't hunt, but that just illustrates my point of how a permit could be used. Same thing applies to a license. Guess what, my friends? The roads belong to us. We don't need permission to drive on roads that belong to us. We have a right to travel. But we're tricked and we're fooled and we're deceived, we're bamboozled into thinking we have to have a driver's license. And the fact that virtually everyone on this planet thinks that you have to have a driver's license proves, number one, that they're deceiving and tricking us. Because we don't. There is no law that establishes we need to have a driver's license unless we're in business with, or unless we deal with commerce. Then we do, because you're using the public roads to make money. Or you're a minor and you can't be accountable. So they trick us when we're young to get one, because we do, because we need to have someone to be accountable for us. We're not of age yet to be accountable, which I got to admit is still something that's worth considering in itself. But then, if you're in business of commerce, and if you look at all the transportation codes, it's clear that the laws for driver's license only apply to those who make a living. If you're a taxi driver or if you're hauling freight or something, then you need to have a license, because you're using our roads to make money off of it. The rest of us, we have a right to travel. But the problem is, number one, they tricked us into thinking we need one, so we apply it. So supposedly, when we apply for a license, we forfeit our right in exchange for a privilege. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that's impossible. You can't do that. Rights are not transferable. You cannot give them up. You cannot exchange them for a privilege. That right there is bogus. In fact, there are 3 main reasons why virtually every contract we've entered with the government is null and void. There's 3 main reasons. One I already gave you. The fact that everyone thinks we need it and we don't proves that they're lying to us. The next reason we know they're lying to us is that they've got their own language, their own legalese. They have their own definition for words and their key terms that are used to know, because they know we're going to think a certain way and they're going to screw us. You see? That right there proves that this contract's null and void, because you're deceiving us. Oh, when we say this word, we don't mean that. We don't mean up, we mean down. You can't do that. You can't do that. Now, I understand all professions have their own language, but it's not a deceptive language. The Law Society, they have a deceptive language, and it's designed to take our rights and trick us and fool us. Once again, there are 3 main reasons why every contract that we enter with the government is null and void. The most obvious one is the one that is the fact that everyone thinks we had to have it. You get pulled over, where's your license? Where's your insurance? Where's your registration? Everyone thinks we need it. So that right there proves that they tricked us. Number 2, they have their own language, which makes every contract null and void. There was never a meeting of the minds. You're taking words that we assume mean something, and you know we're going to assume that. That's why you did it. And then the third one, of course, is the fact, and this is the most important one in my mind, is that you cannot give your right away. You can't transfer it. You can't trade it in for a privilege. That's bullshit. It can't be done. It can't be done. That's number one. So what we have to recognize is how our rights are being taken away from us, and why, and what's being done in this place. It's used to revenue generate. Look how much money they make off of failure of responsibility tickets and speeding tickets. Those tickets alone, in 2010 in Austin, 304,000 tickets, $64 million. The state in 2010, the state of Texas, got $9 billion in revenue from those 2 tickets alone. So it's a form of revenue generating, and it's designed to keep us poor. Remember, the power to tax is the power to control. These people don't have the control. A city ordinance, a city is nothing but a corporation, and a corporation has internal rules, but they can't apply it to us, and that's what they're trying to do to us. And they think that we have to apply to their general rules, and that doesn't work. It'd be like as if I work for McDonald's. Hey, I got rules and regulations. I know when that little light comes on, I got to take the French fries out of the oil, whatever. Customers don't have to obey those rules, so we don't have to obey the rules of city ordinances. They're not laws. However, remember the common law. There's only one law that our legislators have been given the power to enact, and no other law should apply, and that is to make sure you don't harm anyone. Now, I know what a lot of people say, what about the safety issue, public safety? I want to know if that person's driving is qualified. I want to know if they have insurance. I want to know if they run over and kill one of my family members, that this happens and this happens and this happens. Well, guess what, my friends? The courts have ruled all this over and over and over, that it isn't the vehicle, it isn't the car that does the damage, it's the driver, just like it isn't the gun that does the damage, it's the person who pulls the trigger. The car itself is not inherently dangerous, it's the one who drove it. I'm a good case in point. I'll be 63 here in less than a week, couple days. Been driving like 49 years. I have never caused damage to another person in my entire driving career. Not once have I caused an accident where I caused damage, let alone hurt anybody. Not once. So now I got to flip the bill for all you other fools that don't know how to drive. I guarantee you, if you had to pay for the damage out of your own pocket, you'd drive better. So we got to change things. Now, obviously, if you have vertigo, if you have a medical condition, you're not allowed to drive. There are reasons why some people can't drive, if it's not safe for them to do so. But otherwise, we have a right to travel. And as long as you get a license, as soon as you get a license, what happens is now you got to register your car. Now you lose your title. You no longer have the legal title to your car. Do you know that? Here in America, you register your car. As soon as you register, there's 2 titles. You have the equitable title, you can sell it. But they've got the legal title. They can tow it away at your expense to make sure and pay their fines, which they don't have any right to charge you for. So you can see how we're being screwed by the government. Marriage license, a good example of how we're being screwed by the government. In the 1880s to early 1900s, all marriages were common law. Still had a pastor come along and say the words, but then he issued a certificate of marriage. He didn't give you a marriage license. Marriage license didn't come around until people of different races married. But now, when you get a marriage license, you know what happens to you? The state is a third party. Now they can come in. You've given them power to come in. Take your property, settle your divorce settlements, take your kids. You don't want to get a marriage license. You don't want to get any kind of license, because when you do, every license you get, you give up a privilege. But I'm telling you right now, that's bullshit. You can't take away my right. I can't transfer my right into a privilege. That's bullshit. It's legalese that the governments are using to control all of this. So we've got to stand up. There are certain things we have to do downstream so that we can get and stay healthy. So if you're new to this and you haven't figured out how to do everything, that's your main focus. Learn how to satisfy all your needs. Take a solid food vacation. Understand the damage you've done to yourself and the environment, so now you got another group of needs. Those are the subsequent causes that we have to deal with. But then we got those subsequent needs, especially the ones that can be used against us. The ultimate solution, all of us get reconnected, we won't have those, but in the meantime, there's certain things we have to do downstream. The government's at the top of it, because the government's the one that has signed the Federal Reserve Act, that has now allowed people to print our own money. So money is a big problem. That's the ultimate tool of control. We can't take that back as long as we don't have control of the government. So we got to repeal the Federal Reserve Act. We got to do away with all these bureaucracies, the FDA, the USDA, the EPA, the CDC. And then the FDA, what the hell, we got those two agencies together. It's obvious why they're together. Food is what heals, and drugs are what kill. Can't put the, gotta regulate them both. If we're going to kill you with the drugs, we can't let anyone know that the foods are going to be what heals you. Which is, it's illegal in this country to tell you that foods are going to heal you. But the bad foods are going to kill you, so all you got to do is stop eating it. That's what you got to do. Again, we have to understand there are certain things we have to do downstream. We got to take back the airwaves. We should not have a media that has the ability to control us as it does right now, but it can very easily. Every avenue of information that we're getting, whether it's through the media, our educational systems, the government, all these are owned and controlled by a very small group of people. If you haven't watched the Thrive documentary, you got to check that out, or Zeitgeist Addendum, or you can better yet watch my video, Common Links and Common Flaws Between These and Other Conspiracy Theorists, where none of them see the big picture. None of them understand that these are subsequent needs that we have because we're disconnected. So the ultimate solution to solve our educational problems and the money and the government and the media is to understand that those would not exist if we were healthy. But in the meantime, we do have to understand that if we want to stay healthy, we've got to make sure that we have certain rights. We've got to stop giving our rights away. Now, how do we get out of the situation we're in? I'm not really sure, but as far as I'm concerned, my driver's license is null and void. Why? Because you tricked me into thinking I needed it. You used a language that I didn't understand on purpose. And then no one has the right to trade or give you a privilege so that you can give them the right. It just doesn't exist. That's hokum right there. That's all it takes. That's the most important reason. The most obvious reason is the fact that all of us think we need to have that driver's license. And we don't. We have a right to travel. And if you're not a very good driver, you better have some insurance. Otherwise, I think if we all drove around without insurance, I guarantee you the amount of accidents would reduce substantially. There's a reason why I haven't been in an accident that I caused. Because I'm a great driver. I'm paying attention to everybody. In fact, when I drive, it's like I'm playing tag, like I was a little kid. Can't touch me. That's what I do. I look where everyone's at. I'm making sure no one's going to touch me. I'm not going to touch anyone. You can't touch me. If we all drove more aware of everyone else, we wouldn't have the amount of accidents we have now. Now, obviously, we have to be safe. Remember, that's the only thing the government's supposed to be able to pass laws on, is to keep things that are harming us. So, if someone's making a bunch of racket in the middle of the night, whether it's with their stereo or whatever, and they're keeping people from sleeping, that is going to be against the common law. Because you're harming people. But what we have now is a government that's harming us. They are supposed to be our servants, but now because of this maritime law, because of the law of the flag, and because of all these bureaucracies, we have now become subjects. You see, that's what maritime law is. We're under British Admiralty law. The United States thinks we escaped their jurisdiction. We haven't. We're still under that. That's why we got to get these gold, yellow and gold fringe flags out of our courtrooms in every building in this country. We got to abolish these bullshit bureaucracies that are making life worse on this planet. They're harming us. You got to do away with the medical system. The part that's treating symptoms for lifestyle-related problems. Obviously, they have a purpose, and I mentioned this many times in all my videos, pretty much, that they are qualified for accidents and acts of nature. So we don't get rid of all the medical system. As one person created a straw man saying that that's what I'm saying. I'd have to be an idiot to think that. I can't believe this person said this. My God, and I know they'd watched enough of my videos to know that I wouldn't say something stupid like that. So yes, the medical system we have now, allopathic medicine, is good for controlling the body for things outside of our control. Get off me. Bumblebee. Tickling my leg down there. But there is a time and a place when we need intervention. Remember, that's all allopathic medicine is good for. They can control the body. So there's a time and a place to put the cart before the horse, so to speak, so the horse doesn't bleed to death. That's what they can do. They can control the body. Otherwise, diseases are not due to inappropriate signals, which is what they're told. Disease is self-inflicted. That means virtually 90% of what these people are doing are treating symptoms for problems that are lifestyle-related problems. So that's where we have to begin. And we can begin by voting with our money immediately. We can begin by putting some politicians in there that know what to do. Right now, we don't have any good politicians. Where do we begin? I don't know. It reminds me of what Confucius said about government. The secret to having a good government is good men. When you have good men, you have good families. When you have good families, you got good communities. When you got good communities, you got good government. So that's what I said at the very beginning of this video. We are a sick species. That's the problem with our government. That's why I say we really can't fix systems because the systems are made of us. We got to fix ourselves. So it's kind of a dual thing we have to do. We got to go upstream so that most of us can change and then be qualified to actually be in a governmental position. Because the only people who can really be in those positions to help us are people who know how to help themselves. Right now, pretty much every politician we have is not qualified to be a true leader for our species. You need to have someone who understands the laws of nature. That there are simple laws we need to obey based on the law of cause and effect. And so we have to have knowledge of how to live, but we also have to have knowledge of how to adapt. There's a ripple effect. Two groups of needs we must satisfy. When we look at the two additional temporary needs, that's where we have subsequent causes. That's what we have to do individually in case we're damaged and the society is damaged. But then, individually and the environment, but then the society is damaged. And the way it's damaged big time right now is the political systems we have in use. And they're designed right now, going back to 1884, the Fabian Society. This is a socialist agenda that has been adopted by liberalism. And everyone that's following that issue is being tricked into going that direction. And it's easy to see why you're being tricked, because what they propose are the things we're supposed to get when we're healthy. We're supposed to have collectivism in a healthy world. We're actually supposed to have anarchy in a healthy world. We don't need a government if we're healthy. We'll know what to do. But we don't live in a healthy world. So we can't push anarchy on a sick society anymore. We can push collectivism on a sick society, and that's what's being pushed upon us. Through liberalism, through Fabianism, we're being tricked, we're being lied. We can't trust our experts. We got to take control. We got to be the change with which we want to see. It all begins with you guys, first of all, bumping up your biphotons, flushing out that serpent, and then helping us work downstream. And there's a lot more people more qualified in this area than myself. There's a lot more I have to learn, I'll be honest with you. And in fact, I hope all of you guys double check some of the information I gave you today. Check out the yellow and gold fringe on the flag. See what that does. If you haven't looked into maritime law, you need to understand that that's what we're put under. We're actually considered vessels at sea. We are humans. A birth certificate. It ties into when a ship goes into a port, it's given a berth and a birth certificate. It's the same thing. Now that's what they're trying to do to us. It's a little sleight of hand trick. That, oh, you're vessels at sea now. You're a number on the stock exchange. Now you give us a social security number. It all ties back into the name you've been given. But remember, every contract we've entered with these clowns is null and void. Because they tricked us and they fooled us and they're taking away our rights, and they don't have the right to do that. And when we can take back our rights, my friends, I guarantee you, we'll all be in for a treat.